because of the various competing priorities, we cannot accommodate everything. Just like your own household budget, you have various needs and wants that were grouped by Maslow according to his own hierarchy. And it's not everything that you achieve. So it's the same with the national budget. So what we need to do is to prioritize. But with those limited resources, we are glad that the deficits are now below the SADC macroeconomic convergence target of -3% in our country. And this is contained in Annex 2 of the SADC Protocol on Investment. So we are in line with the international best practice despite the resource challenges. Our current account is also in perpetual surpluses since 2019, although the BOP is in deficit, but the current account has been in perpetual surplus. And inflation, just like what the Honorable Speaker has said, is coming down and is stabilizing. And we are also witnessing rapid infrastructural development in our country. Then on the next slide, I quoted a statement from the national budget, page 6, if you can go to the next slide, where it says, and ultimately the country needs to value add its raw materials, diversify the sources of growth, and expand local product range as well as export markets, raise productivity and competitiveness in order to participate effectively in global value chains. Honorable members, we know what we want. On page 6, it's very clear that we know what we want. What we only need is to ensure that we put in place the right policies to support that. And also we put in place the monies to support that. So as we appropriate, we need to make sure that what we are appropriating is supportive of our intention and of the intentions contained in Vision 2030. So for the 2020 budget, our budget 2023 total budget, estimated expenditure is 4.5 trillion, which is 14.5% of our GDP. And of that, about 82.6% of that is going to our ministries and independent commissions. Then what we call constitutional and statutory appropriation will take 17.4%. Constitutional and statutory appropriations, whether we approve as Parliament or not, these are constitutional and we have to make provisions towards them. So what we can only appropriate is the 82.6% ministries and independent commissions. The constants are given. For example, repayment of debts. For example, salaries of the presidium in the country. Those are given. Then loan repayments, we are targeting 248.6 billion. Devolution, we are looking at 195.5 billion. And development partners are coming in with 352.8 billion. I will speak briefly about development partner, I think, in the coming slides. Then on the next slide, we are showing the priorities for the 2023 budget. Suffice to say that the theme is accelerating economic transformation. And this budget is a midpoint in our implementation of NDS1, which means we have to look at where we are coming from, see the achievements that we have scored, and appropriate resources to maintain the achievements. And also where we failed, we need to make sure that we put in place the resources and mechanisms to take our country back on the track to ensure we achieve Vision 2030. Those are the priority areas, and I will speak to them in the coming slides. But generally, we have seen that there is general slowdown in the global economy. On the next slide, if you can see on the next slide, on this slide, from compared with 2022, most countries will experience a general slowdown, with the exception of a few emerging markets and resource-rich countries. These include China, which will experience a growth from 3.2 to 4.4, and India 6.8 to 4 to 6.1. In Africa, we have Nigeria 3.6 to 3.2, Angola 0.8 to 2.9, but the rest of the world will experience general slowdown, and Zimbabwe is no exception. So we expect what's happening in other countries to also happen in our country, because we're a major player. We're also a player in the global economy. Then on the next slide, we are showing the economic growth in the country. Suffice to say that this year we are expecting 4% from the initially projected 4.6%, and this will slow down to 3.8% in 2023. But we are still within our NDS1 target. Why? Because the average for the period 2020 to 2022, the average growth rate has been 5.4%, largely driven by 8.5% growth we registered in 2021. And because of that, we are then still within the expected NDS1 growth target of 5% in terms of the average.
For these and other stories, visit our website www.263chat.com. Follow us on Twitter @263chat and like our Facebook page 263chat.